So welcome back to the Honourable Truth, a podcast presented by Canterbury Boys in partnership with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. This is episode 2 of our podcast, and today we're talking about a fundamental skill that all students in all schools need. That is the skill of reading, and that's a skill that's close to me as the head teacher of English here. I am your host, of course, Nathan McKinley, and today I am joined by our principal, who is part of the Canterbury Education Precinct, Tracy Considine. So welcome, Tracy.
Thanks, Nathan. Pleasure to be here.
So those of you listening who don't know Tracy, she has been principal of Canterbury Public School for 3.5 years now.
That's right.
And today we have brought in a primary school principal to talk about reading, because in high school we teach reading in a variety of different ways. But we really wanted to look at that fundamental skill and how students acquire it. And the first sort of place to start is, why is reading important?
Yeah, and it's a great question, Nathan. Reading's important for many reasons. First of all, research shows the best predictor of future education achievement and life success is reading ability, or more significantly, being engaged and being a habitual reader. So it's really important for future education and life outcomes. There's also strong evidence that reading for pleasure can increase a person's empathy, well-being, decrease instances of acute depression, and generally improve well-being throughout life. So there's lots of lifelong benefits to learning to read. The importance of reading is also related to the amount of reading you do. So right from the word go, if a child is read to for 20 minutes a day before they start kindergarten, they're ahead by 290,000 words than compared to children who have not been read to in their first 5 years of life.
That was 290,000
words.
Okay.
Yeah. 290,000 words more
than someone who's never been read to.
Correct.
And that's just with 20 minutes, something as simple as 20 minutes a day. 20
minutes of reading a day or being read to a day.
Yeah, wow. That's insane. And the 20-minute mark and that number is very easy to do. I know here at Canterbury Boys, our 7 to 10 students start every day, regardless of their subject, with 20 minutes of reading. We have the accelerated reader program here, and that's why I've sort of latched on to the 20 minutes idea. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about primary school and primary school teachers. So these young students that I can't even fathom teaching a 5-year-old or even sometimes younger, right?
Yes, sometimes 4.5 years of age before when they start kindergarten.
Okay. You can't see, because this is a audio medium, but I've got this shocked look on my face because I'm just thinking about how hard that must be, and I'm just amazed at what primary school teachers do. So how do they teach these really young kids how to read?
Well, I think first and foremost, we don't assume that a child comes to school with nothing and no prior experience. So in their first 5 years of life, their parents are their first and most important educator from the get-go and for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And so we very much build on the knowledge and skills and interests that parents initially have fostered with their child's literacy and reading. And then I guess for us, our purpose of teaching reading, obviously it's to build those literacy foundations, but really it's to develop habitual love for reading for the rest of their life. So we make it a really positive, all primary school teachers make it a really positive experience, and children are immersed in a really rich literature environment right from the word go at the beginning of kindergarten, and then for the rest of their 7 years of primary school, and as you said, Nathan, into secondary high school, where you still show children the value of reading and the importance of it.
Can I just ask you about the rich literature? I can't remember the exact phrasing. What did you say? The rich literature, the rich world of literature that they're immersed in. This is my high school brain and high school English teacher brain. Rich world of literature, I'm thinking Charles Dickens, I'm thinking Jane Austen, Shakespeare, but I assume for kindergarten that's not the case.
Oh, no, we start with Shakespeare.
Of
no,
course,
I'm joking.
That's how, of course. That's why they come here and just reciting Macbeth. And
That's exactly right. We set them up for success. Look, it's about the classroom and the school environment being a very rich literature environment, and that means having a wealth of quality literature and non-fiction texts available for the teacher to read to students and for students to read right from the start. It's about having a classroom where there's words and literacy everywhere. So it's visual as well as oral.
Because even primary school teachers are teachers of everything, and we're all teachers of literacy regardless of which subject or which staff room we sit in.
That's exactly right. So, and particularly in primary school, literacy development is very much integrated within the English curriculum, but also across all learning areas.
So you've talked about the parents being these guides for students. Again, I can't remember exactly what you said, but you said it much better than I just put it. So how can our parents help their children learn to read?
Well, it's never too late to start, but it's also never too early to start. So right from the beginning, the oral development is really essential. There's 6 big pillars of reading and being able to be a very powerful reader. And the first one is oral development, oral language. So every time a child is spoken to or listens to their parents and those around them, anytime they're sung to or singing along in the car, any book that they're read, that really builds their vocabulary and makes reading more accessible by the time it comes to formally learn how to read.
Okay.
And so my advice for parents is don't dumb down your language right from the beginning. You know, talk to children, use your expansive vocabulary to really build their language and their vocabulary, because vocabulary is another really important pillar of learning how to be a really capable reader. And in any language. So speak in your home language, read in your home language, practice English as well. It really doesn't matter. Literacy, it doesn't matter what language you develop your child's literacy in.
Okay.
And of course, before children come to school, they see environmental print everywhere, in signage, on the way to preschool or on the way to school, on the takeaway menu, on a Friday night. It's everywhere around us. So even having those conversations about, oh, look at that letter, or what does that word say, or what are the letters on that registration plate, that helps to build very early literacy foundations.
I want to say this was a literacy strategy I used with my 2 boys, but it might have been just a way of trying to make the supermarket shops a bit easier, and that was getting them to sound out and look at the words on the aisle and, you know, what's down this aisle, and be flour, and let's try and sound that word out and things like that. Definitely not just because I was trying to make shopping easier, definitely because I was trying to help them develop their literacy.
Of course, Nathan, of course. I mean, you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but... and look, yes, it does make those daily chores a lot more interesting and engaging and educational for students. Also, of course, you know, modelling reading for pleasure, whether it be on your Kindle, a book, an actual book, old school.
A physical book?
That's
crazy,
book. I know,
I'm a huge fan of physical books.
And physical books and Kindles, they're even more important now. I mean, it's been 20 years since the screen overtook the book as the dominant medium for communication, but there is so much to learn from using a book. And again, another big pillar is understanding about concepts about print, you know, knowing the front cover versus the back cover, reading left to right in English, top to bottom, left page to right page, just being able to navigate a range of texts, just understanding how to get meaning from them. And look, reading for pleasure, modelling that as a parent goes such a long way in children valuing reading as a habit and as a hobby. And I don't know about you, Nathan, but I still remember it being part of my bedtime ritual where mum or dad would come in and read me a story at bedtime. I'd try and get them to, read 5 to 10, but, we'd settle on 1 or 2 every night.
Yeah, and my parents still will make fun of me for the Clifford series and I'm Emily Elizabeth and things like that. I'm a 33-year-old man, but there were jokes in my family that they were going to take me to see the Clifford movie and it didn't happen, and I was very disappointed.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'll wait till it's released on streaming and check it out.
It's making memories. They're really special parts of childhood, and the educational benefits are obviously not apparent to children.
Yeah.
But you are educating your child just by reading with them every day.
And it is a good bedtime routine to get children away from their screens for 10, 20 minutes and help them ease into sleep a lot easier.
Absolutely. And, another thing we do is obviously send home books for children to practice reading at home.
Yep.
And we really encourage families to, if you do no other homework in primary school, reading every night is just so important and powerful.
Okay.
And giving some really positive praise and feedback on attempts. So kids are never going to get it right every time. Even us as adults, we sometimes stumble. But being really positive and making sure you keep reading at home a pleasurable activity rather than a chore.
So if it's a pleasurable activity, what about books on anything? Like my 2 boys, I'm going to talk about them because they are primary school aged. My eldest is sports mad. My youngest will read everything, so I'll focus on my eldest. He's sports mad, and a work of fiction doesn't really grab him, but the history of cricket or cricket statistics, he'll sit there and read that. That's beneficial, right?
Absolutely. Whether it be graphic novels, picture books, magazine articles, anything, fiction, non-fiction, be led, be guided by your child because, as I said, come back to the purpose. It's for pleasure and to build those really important reading for life habits. Yeah. So anything they want to read, as long as obviously the concepts are age appropriate, it's strongly encouraged. And look, we don't want parents to break the bank, so utilise the school library, utilise your council library or even street libraries to borrow and return new books. Some of us have lots and lots of books on the shelf at home and you look at them and think, wow, I've sunk a lot of money into those. But just borrowing from a library is very helpful.
I think parents need to take that advice, and me personally, I do. I'm currently moving house, and I have these 3 big boxes of books that I've moved to a spot, and I don't think I can move them out. There's just too many, and it's crazy to think about how much I've invested in that.
But that's the power of books, isn't it? That's the power. They become almost they're inanimate objects, but they're like a part of your life and your learning. They are a treasure. And
there's some that I won't touch, and some of my boys' books that I'm not allowed to go, even though it's been 3, 4, 5 years since they've touched them. But there's no way I'm throwing out Mem Fox's 10 Little Fingers and 10 Little Toes. Yeah. That was the 10-year-old's favourite book when he was 2, but I still can't touch it. And that leads us really into another thing I wanted to ask you about. Are there any books you personally recommend for young readers?
Well, I don't have shares in the company, but look, I've got my own favourites. But I think more generally, just, again, be guided by your child's interests. Yep. Expose them to a range of fiction and non-fiction texts. And use that as a bit of a platform for where to take them next, and they'll guide you. And for early reading, playful books like you said, the 10 Little Fingers, 10 Little Toes, Rudy Nudie. They're playful. Yeah. They play around with rhythm and rhyme, and those are other phonological skills that are very, very important in the development of reading. the Premier's Reading Challenge has an incredible database of books, and they're categorised by author, but also by reading age as well. So that's a great place for parents to Google and find a wealth of books. And the Children's Book Council Awards of Australia have fantastic shortlisted books every year that are guaranteed quality books.
And that the Premier's Reading Challenge goes all the way up into Year 8 and Year 9, so even the students in high school and parents listening to this of high school age students are able to Google that and look what their son and daughter may enjoy reading.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything else that you sort of want to add or anything like that? Or sort of the main takeaways, I sort of guess, is my roundabout way of asking, what are the main sort of things that parents listening to this need to take away from our discussion?
Never underestimate the value of a book. Never underestimate the value of reading. It opens doors. It opens doors. It's really important. And also work with your child's teacher when you get to school and high school. Stay in touch. Your partners in learning, we need you. We're guided by you as much as you're guided by us.
And learning's a three-way relationship.
Absolutely.
Parent, teacher, student, we all need to be rowing in the same direction for those best outcomes. So, Tracy, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the podcast for coming on today and sharing your expertise. And, thanks again.
Thanks, Nathan. It's been a great pleasure.
We are now in our second segment of the podcast, The Honourable Truth. Our second segment, as you know, is in the community. During this segment, we put the spotlight on people who are doing wonderful things in and around the Canterbury Boys community. And today we are lucky enough to be joined by Theo Fotopolous.
Fotopolous, you almost had it right.
I've had it. So those of you that wouldn't know, I've been practicing that all day and I almost got it. Theo is from the Earlwood Wanderers Football Club. So welcome, Theo. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much, Nathan, and some of the other people that helped me through this invitation to be part of your great, exciting venture in the community.
Well, it's not our venture into the community we're focusing on. It's your work in the community that has brought you in here today. And so it's the Earlwood Wanderers Football Club that you're a part of. How long have you been involved with the club itself, and what is your current role?
Look, I just did that check with my daughter and son the other night, and we've been involved with Earlwood Wanderers for 10 years, and my role started as a coach, manager, and I also spent 2 or 3 years on the committee. Okay.
And currently you are?
Currently I'm the assistant manager of 2 boys teams. There's the under 16 threes and the under 15 twos. And we are looking for players, by the way, so I'm going to plug that in.
Go for it. For all age groups or just those
two?
Well,
look, all age groups, but look, with our specific 2 teams, we're still looking for 2 players in our under 16s teams, especially a goalkeeper, if there's one out there. And also our 15s, we've got 1 spot left there for a goalkeeper as well.
Goalkeeper, are they hard to come by, are they?
They are rare. They're a bit like halfbacks in rugby league.
We were talking before, and I let Theo know I'm more a rugby league man, so he's helping me understand the world game a bit better. Being involved for 10 years, you would have seen a change in the participation level. Has it gone up or down?
Look, at our particular club, I will say this. When I started, the club was pretty steady, slightly declining in terms of our numbers. The first year I started, we had 629 players, and now we have a community of 1,400. So the club has actually increased in size over those 10 years.
That's close to double in that 10 years, or over double.
It is. It's significant, and that's both boys and girls. Yep. And we have an all-ability special needs program as well, Little Wanderers, which as long as you can kick a ball, if you're 2, 1.5, we'll take you, and you can go through a program that the club has set up, as well as a lot of adult football. So, Nathan, there's still a chance for you to learn the world game as well.
Yep, there's a chance. We'll see what happens. we'll go to the other end of the spectrum, the Little Wanderers. So from 1.5 to what?
Well, as
age
long as they
is
can
it?
kick a ball.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the official age is 2, but we've snuck a few in slightly under that age because of their enthusiasm and levels of development.
And they do drills, learn the skills,
The whole
learn about
thing.
the game. They play as well?
Yes, they have a professional setup for them on a Saturday. Usually it's Hughes Park. It's one of the 3 grounds that we use. And Beeman Park is one of the grounds that the Little Wanderers program is located. And from 2 to 5 years old, it's a great way to have a professional certified coach teach you the basics from a very young age.
That's awesome. And they continue that love through to the 6s, 7s, 8s and...
That's the whole idea. Once they get out of that little group, they come into the under 6s, and then you've pretty much all the way up to our sort of delicate age groups, I should say, Nathan, and right through to an under. I think they've started an under. There's another age group over 45s now. So basically, the game is accessible for everybody in the family. If you've got passion. Even if you're not a great player, you can get the hang of it. And it's about community spirit. It's about being involved actively. And I think from a health perspective, you've got some really good benefits there and a bit of fun. Yeah,
so there's a couple of things that you've said that I just want to ask you about a bit more. The number of girls' teams and women's teams that you have, that's increased with the success of the Matildas?
There has been a massive increase. But I'll also say that the club has made a concerted effort over many years to have parity at our club. So we're a little bit unique in the sense that a girl could start in the Little Wanderers program, and virtually every age group is represented thereafter up to that 45 age group that I spoke about.
So from the under 6s, there's
all the way through
the girls.
And you can choose to play mixed football up to the age of 11. So my daughter, for example. The deal with her was when she started, she said, "Look, Dad, I don't want to do dancing anymore." Pardon if anyone's doing dancing. But she said, "Dad, I want to do something else." I said, "What do you want to do?" She said, "Oh, I want to do football, Dad." I said, "Okay, great." She said, "There's one catch." I said, "What's the catch?" She goes, "You've got to be the coach." So we're all busy people, Nathan. So started there.
Coaching junior sport's a bit of a thankless job at times.
It is. It's a very thankless job. However, what I learnt, and I've been fortunate enough to work in sport at different levels, the professional level, international and national level, various sports. And what I find with grassroots sports, there is a really good return on community. It's a real feel good. Unless you've actually been involved, whether it be just picking up cones or some nets and so forth.
Or a shift in the canteen.
Whatever you have to do.
All those things that make a club go around.
It's very satisfying, and I can't really describe it, but I know what it is now, whereas previously, having come from more of a commercial involvement in sport, I didn't really understand it until I got involved with my kids' football. Sport.
And you do get that at the end of the season, that feel good. And it's thankless at sometimes, but then there's other times where the reward is huge.
You can't put a price on it. And I think if you want to understand the sport, it's a great way to actually really get yourself not only involved with your sport, but your team also represents your community. So as a school, you represent a community. It's called Canterbury Boys High School, but you've got kids that are both resident or in the local area, as well as kids coming from out of area. So sports clubs seem to have this way of transcending any sort of potential barriers in the community. It's like, can you kick a ball? Do you want to have some fun? Most local sporting clubs, including Earlwood, we're always welcome, and we're very multicultural organisation, historically speaking.
Oh, awesome! Historically speaking, you were saying before we started recording, British and Irish migrants.
That's right. We go back to the 1910s, Nathan. So it's about the same time as rugby league forming, right? So I'm just giving you a parallel.
Thank you.
I think it was basically some very hardworking people of British heritage, Irish, Scottish, that set up the club with a cricket club in tow, which probably was a bit of a spark from their mother country or the motherland or whatever you want to call it. Because that's very common in when you watch English Premier League football clubs, they tend to have historical links to cricket or other sports. So it's a very common thing. So we're a little bit old that way. So we've been operating over 100 years. So it's a long time.
One of the things we sort of touched on was parent involvement and people in the community getting involved. So if my boys have a change in heart and want to play soccer this year, football, so I take it out of rugby league, what can I do as someone who knows nothing about the sport? Is there an opportunity for me to help out the club?
Absolutely. Look, it really comes down to your level of interest. If you want to learn a little bit about coaching football, our club is a little bit unique as well. We've started a coaching support program this year with a former, he's actually a current Young Matildas coach, Robbie Mariana, who also played for Aston Villa, for all the British football fans who might be listening. And he's been implementing a proper program which is subsidised by our corporate partners as well as a little bit with the club, but it's at no cost to the families involved. And what it does, it helps bring in opportunities for someone who has no idea about football.
Yeah,
can actually start with a really good textbook using a school parlance.
Yeah.
And work their way through that. And there's always someone alongside them. So it's not just you sort of battling away and thinking, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's
you've actually got
that
support there.
And that's
from the
something
club.
Unique to Earlwood?
It is a little bit unique in the sense that we've undertaken a serious program with a serious investment for the long term to develop kids and coaches.
That is amazing. That's really good. I'm blown away by everything you've said of Earlwood as a club, and part of me is thinking, why aren't my boys into football? Because this club is sounding amazing, and I just want to thank everyone involved in the club and yourself included in that.
Thank you, Nathan. And look, the good thing is I've actually got 2 rugby league boys that actually played rugby league and also played football. Because when they were a little bit younger, we played Saturday. Yeah. League was playing on Sunday. So we've got a lot of kids that play more than one sport. So we're always accommodating. Also, if they've got some schoolwork, being a teacher, Nathan, sometimes you've got to do that as well as homework. We're always accommodating. So we're very community focused. It's all geared for inclusiveness and making sport accessible to everybody.
That is awesome. And sort of bringing it back to that idea of school, Canterbury boys, I understand we've got a lot of our boys who do play at Earlwood Wanderers. Has it always been the case that...
Always been the case, even from the John Howard era, let's just say that.
Yep.
One of your famous students here and a few others, I think a certain pop band, AC/DC perhaps. I'm not sure if he played soccer.
I'm not sure either. Possibly.
he was a member of your school. So look, it's something that is historical with us in Canterbury. I mean, our local public school was around from 1916. Your school here started, I think, very similar time.
A couple of years after. I want to say 1918. So
1918. So
that could be.
We were kicking a ball, so it's very likely there was probably a Canterbury high school student, boys high school student, playing even from that time.
Awesome. My last sort of question for you for today is about just the success of the club and any notable success stories that you want to share with our listeners.
Look, I think it comes back to what you said before, if I was to get involved in a club, what could I do? And I think we have such a great community, rich of skills and expertise, and being a voluntary organisation, that's always welcome. And most clubs are quite hungry, and volunteering has changed significantly since I've been involved. Yeah. People are time poor, but you can still contribute. So some of the milestones the club has done is build a very successful program from 2 years old to adults, which is what I was talking about before. But even more significantly, the All Abilities program has been growing, and that's a wide age range program from your younger ones right through to sort of teenage.
I did say that was my last question, but I want to ask you about that All Abilities program.
Yeah.
Is that another thing that's unique to Earlwood Wanderers?
Well, I wouldn't say it's unique, but we were early developers of it, and we made sure that the club made an investment for All Abilities, and we fully subsidised that program.
Oh, wow.
So as long as you want to be involved, it runs alongside our Little Wanderers program.
Yeah.
Again, professional coaching, parents can be involved, and so forth. Another significant milestone we had is we were the first community club to organise 3 A-League matches with Sydney FC.
Oh, cool.
So we had the Johnny Warren, who's one of our famous ex-players. We've had 5 Socceroos and 1 Matilda.
Wow.
That's young Ibini, Matilda, and the other Ibini plays in the men's side in the Western Sydney Wanderers, who's also ex-Sydney FC, ex-Earlwood as well. So we organised an exhibition match, which was like a theatre of dreams, where basically you get 11 players from a select Earlwood team, which included kids from 16 up to adults, and we played the first 11 Sydney FC game with the Sydney FC team. So that includes all their top players. So we did that at Leichhardt Oval, and that was something we worked with our external community partners to help us finance that, and it's been a great success. We had 3 years of that. In recent times, scheduling's been a bit of an issue, so we haven't had a chance to do it.
The weather and COVID and this whole pandemic thing's a bit hard, but something you're trying to do again?
Well, look, there's the advent of synthetic pitches, which are helping games happen when the weather is like this. We don't have a synthetic pitch at the moment, but there will be a significant development at Earlwood Oval to improve the grass fields there.
Oh, okay.
So that's a big milestone.
Huge news, I'm sure, for everyone involved in local football, hoping to be able to get out there and enjoy some this season.
Look, anybody can come along.
Yep.
Any skill, any age, and the club has a proud history as far as performances. We have the highest number of championships, club championships in the district. Sometimes that attracts undue attention sometimes.
Yep.
So it's very competitive out there. But, I think the most significant thing is that the club is now holistically has equal access to both boys and girls, men and women.
Yeah.
And we work hard to ensure that everyone has the same opportunities at the club.
It sounds like an amazing club, and like I've said earlier, I'm a bit sorry that my boys are rugby league mad. So on behalf of Canterbury Boys and the Honourable Truth, I want to thank you for coming in, but not just for coming in and for talking on the podcast, but for everything you do for the local community, Theo.
Look, and I want to thank you on behalf of the Earlwood Club Committee as well for this opportunity. We're all partners in community, and if any boys want to play for our club or any of the clubs in the district, there's so many within the Canterbury District Football Soccer Association that you can choose from. There's almost a club for everybody.
Yeah.
Pick your colour, pick your region. But yeah, if you'd love to come down and see what we do, we're very open. You can come down with a few of the boys, whatever. We're very happy to have you guys as our guests at any time. We have even a special event or just want to come around and have a kick around with one of our teams. We'll
definitely be taking you up on that, Theo. Thanks again.
Thank you, Nathan, and thanks to James also for organising this lovely invitation. Really appreciate it.
Happy? It's that time in the podcast that we're up to our third and final segment of episode 2. Those of you that listened to our first episode would know that the final segment is the truth of the matter, where we look at all things health and well-being. Today we are again joined by Zoe Warwick, our Student Learning and Support Officer here at Canterbury Boys. Those of you who listened to episode 1 would know Zoe is also studying sport and exercise science at university. So welcome back, Zoe.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. And today we are going to be talking about the ways humans need to move their body and the different types, right?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about exercise, the types of exercise and activity, the benefits of it, the recommendations, and what motivation can lie within that aspect.
So the logical point for me to start, as someone who knows next to nothing, would be the types. So what are the different types of body movement that we as humans need?
So there's 2 types of activity, and this can be physical and incidental. Physical activity is classified as like any bodily movement, and then incidental activity is unplanned and it's part of a daily activity in work, home, school, and like leisure domains. And then it comes to exercise, which is structured and unplanned, and this is used to promote health and fitness.
And physical activity is something we just do without thinking about it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And it's just as important as exercise?
Yes, yeah. So it's physical activity, think of it as a medication, like you need it daily. There's research that says people taking 8,800 steps per day spend almost 1/3 of a day less in hospital per year than people taking 4,500 steps per day.
It seems so easy to be taking those steps and it seems like such a great benefit to spend 1/3 of a day less in hospital.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what are the other benefits of physical activity and exercise?
So you can think of it as moving for the mind. It's known that resistance training reduces anxiety and depression symptoms in adults, and it's important primary and secondary preventative strategy to reduce the risk of chronic diseases. And massively, it's an effective way for improving mental health. It's leading to increased mood levels and decreased levels of anxiety and stress. Any type and intensity of physical activity has shown to be that positive effect on the alleviating depression symptoms, and it also improves your cardiovascular fitness, which reduces your inflammation and your lower blood pressure.
They all sound great, and that idea of mental health and depression symptoms, I know myself when I do something physical, so I'm a big surfer. After I've had a surf or I've been for a paddle, you just feel better within yourself, and that lasts for days or maybe weeks sometimes, depending on how good the waves were.
Yeah, and it's like when people say, oh, they're in a rut, like you can move. You're not a tree as such, and you're not stuck to that one thing. Going out and going for a walk gets you out of that rut that you're feeling in, and it literally can be as simple as going for a 5-minute walk. And the feeling that gives you, it's crazy.
Yeah. So 5 minutes, is that the recommendation? That's the amount we should be doing, or is it a little bit more than that?
It's a little bit more, but look, anywhere is a start. Yeah. Any is better than none, like I said. Gradually build up, be active most and preferably all days, whether that is walking to work or riding your bike to school. Limiting that sedentary behaviour is massive. For adults aged 18 to 64 years, it is recommended to participate in moderate activity for about 150 to 300 minutes per week, or vigorous activity for 75 to 150 minutes per week. And these two are an equivalent combination. In this age bracket, they're also recommended to do muscle strengthening activities 2 days a week and minimise, as I said before, that sedentary behaviour such as prolonged sitting in the office as such.
So muscle strengthening, so that means we all need to get some weights at home, or?
Yeah, it ranges from each to every person. Okay. Whether you want to do that strength, it's just a recommendation. Yep. If you're feeling up to it and you feel like you do have the strength, anywhere is a start. You can start from having no strength and build that up, and then that's that goal and motivation related to that. When it says moderate and vigorous, that depends on each individual as well. Moderate for some people may be going for a walk, whereas that may be light for some people. Related to vigorous, that really means like a high intensity training session for 45 minutes as such, really getting that heart rate up and
really pushing yourself.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this idea, and motivation can wane with physical activity and with exercise. So what's the importance of motivation, and how do we keep our motivation up?
So individuals obtain that motivation through internal and external factors, and this can direct them towards that goal that I was just talking about. This goal, for such, if people are just starting to get into that physical activity, it can be aiming for certain steps during the day, and this becomes rewarding as you're improving your physical well-being and also your emotional well-being by achieving that goal that was set. With this motivation, if you have that, you can set any goal. I like the quote that says, setting goals is the first step into turning the invisible into the visible.
That is a good one.
So, yeah, it's just motivation, huge.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they need to have it to do this physical activity, but it is starting from the basics and, like, going up as you're feeling more comfortable within yourself. Or, like I said, all progress takes place outside of the comfort zone.
That's another good one. That's another good quote. I don't know if you caught that on the mic. Sorry, guys. So what would you say are the main sort of takeaways or things that people who are listening need to know from what we've been talking about?
I just think the main thing is any exercise is better than none, and it doesn't have to be working out for an hour to 2 hours, and that you're only being physical active if you're in the gym, because that isn't the case in a lot of scenarios. It's going for a walk of a morning for 20 minutes. That is your exercise. Know what your body enjoys and what your body can do, and then just go from there.
Yeah, I know myself that my body enjoys yoga and surfing, so that's what I try and do as much as I can.
That's it. Whether it is skateboarding, if that's what you like to do, it's just getting outdoors, being active. Yeah.
Riding a bike, even playing sport in your local team, if that's something that you could do.
Yeah.
This has been great, and there's been a lot of great tips in here for our community, so thank you for coming on, Zoe. It's been great having you.
Thanks for having me again.
And that brings us to the end of episode 2 of The Honourable Truth, a podcast brought to you by Canterbury Boys in partnership with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Until next time, stay safe, and we will talk again soon.